everyone. What's up and welcome to Talkin Carball live!
In-person edition, let's go!
Colin and I are in a state-of-the-art recording studio that we are using to its full capacity.
Yeah, everything's broken, so it's probably more scuffed than usual.
Yeah, actually legitimately worse. We're wearing masks and we're still just recording in the exact same way we always do.
No, I'm not even using my headset. I'm using earbuds to record. So it's actually much, much worse.
Yeah, but we are in person now, so I can look over at Colin.
Kind of weird. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm normally just staring at my screen. Yeah, what I do.
Just blankly like doom scrolling through Wikipedia as you talk.
I don't have my headphones to fiddle with the entire time. I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself.
Yeah, but do you know we did know what to do with?
RLCS?
RLCS, baby.
Yes.
RLCS was back this weekend, but before we can get into that sweet, juicy RLCS, I think we got very few things of business and even news to really cover this week.
Yeah. Our giveaway is still going on. You can enter all the way through the end of the month. Right now, I think we have like 2 people who have entered it. So go ahead, enter it. You'll probably win.
Yeah.
Well, not probably. You'll have a very strong chance.
Compared to other giveaways, I think it's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I may have to just go ahead and toss my name in there.
Your name is already in there, actually, from the test run. I was ignoring that one.
Yeah.
You cannot win.
Just pay myself $3. Give me an excuse to get another skin. Yeah, no, other than that, please enter and enroll there. Pretty much all the giveaway entails is just following our socials. Hopefully we're doing that anyway. And if you even want to do that outside of the giveaway, that'd be appreciated. And I mean, really the only news, I mean, obviously like sort of like with the actual season starting, there's a whole lot less like roster mania and just sort of org stuff to do. So the only real news is that RLCS is back.
Yep. We actually just finished watching the finals of the North American Regional 1. We'll go through everything there. We didn't catch a lot of the Europe qualifiers, but we will do our best Wikipedia browsing to figure out what happened over across the pond.
Yeah. Well, I figure that will probably be the case with most people.
Yeah.
It's kind of unfortunate that the way things are sort of syncing up is that Europe, I think, Freaky or Your Flame tweeted like that pretty much this is how it's going to happen every time. Like every qualifier is going to happen during the regional. So like a little bit of conflict of time, but you know.
Yeah, and well, after this first one, teams will be auto-qualified for their regionals.
Okay.
So, and the qualifiers might not be as hectic or important. They're still important, but like...
There won't be invitational qualifiers.
There won't be an invitational.
Okay.
I think I don't know the exact rules, but I'm pretty sure I'm guessing top 8 will be automatically in.
Yeah, it'll sort of take place invitational. And I mean, open quals, there's not really much to watch there anyway. And then, I mean, it is nice. I am sad that we had to miss the closed qualifier just because that is top tier teams. But you know, it is what it is. I'd rather watch the best of NA. So
yeah,
there's all sorts.
You gotta pick and choose. You're going to the real event and not the qualifier.
I will say the one positive of us being in the studio is there's all sorts of fun stuff for Colin to play with. These guys. Useless turntables in front of him, a very strange looking stool that he can also spin around.
You'll see me messing with these things all the time because when I'm at home doing the recording, I'm always fidgeting with things. So
at least we're making some use out of the
space
space.
Cams will never come to this. We'll never have a video option because you'll just get me looking away and mindlessly playing with things that aren't important.
Yeah. No, I think I'd probably... I don't know. I'm just literally staring into my computer the entire time normally, so it's not exciting stuff. But so let's get into it.
Let's get into it. What's first up on the docket?
First up on the docket, just sort of recapping the NA regional.
All right, NA regional not team. It was won by FaZe Clan. Congratulations to FaZe Clan winning their first event as a team.
Yeah.
Winning the first event of the new season, getting $30,000, 20,000 for second place. It's a big prize pool
That is,
this year.
these are just children, man. That's insane. Let's first killer like 16. that imagine you're
Yeah,
just like, I mean, these people don't go to school; they're all in like online school. But theoretically, the like first killer could walk into your high school the next day and be $11,000 richer.
yeah, that's just ridiculous.
That's like tuition for a semester at college,
Yeah,
most places. But I think we got to sort of travel back in time a little bit.
oh, absolutely.
I'm trying to think. Friday feels like forever ago.
Friday was a long time ago.
Yeah,
I was actually on the road for most of Friday, so I missed a lot of it, but I was able to listen to the commentators for all the version 1 games
yeah.
when I had service.
Got to go on that emotional roller
That
coaster.
was, oh my God, it was brutal.
Yeah, so we can sort of kick things off just looking at round one. Sort of like notable results and stuff we talked about. I think I sort of hyped up that Sonics SSG matchup, and SSG ended up taking them pretty handily. I don't think I watched too much of that game, but Sonics at least kept it close. So that was exciting to see, and that was sort of just like a foreshadowing that SSG was going to look pretty good on the weekend, and they
Yeah.
did. They didn't make it to the finals; they lost to FaZe, but they started off strong.
I think one of the bigger results in this one was XSET taking down Shopify.
Yeah,
Overall, Shopify Rebellion did not even qualify, or they didn't advance to the playoffs.
yeah.
They went 1-3 in the Swiss stage, losing to XSET version 1 and Ghost. The only team they beat was Integrity.
Yeah, and I think that I think we gave them a little bit of a shout out last week, but I think everyone pretty much in the community's been pretty big on them, especially since we play and how they finished up the spring last year. And so I don't know. I like that roster a lot. I hope they can sort of turn things around without having to make a change, just because I think that is not indicative of like their overall ability. But that's certainly got to be disappointing for them.
Yeah, that was a rough start to the split for them for sure.
Other big matchup was Torrent Integrity, unfortunately ending up in a reverse sweep. Well, unfortunately, in my opinion, if you're a Torrent fan, probably not. But it was a reverse sweep for Torrent that went to overtime in Game 5. So absolutely heartbreaking for Torrent. I mean, for Integrity, that's just a really tough series to lose, like, and probably like their most winnable of the day. So just really difficult. Hopefully they can keep their chins up and sort of just use this as a learning point, because I mean it's already an amazing accomplishment to reach top 16. So nothing really to be ashamed of there.
Yeah, and then version 1 played against FaZe. That was another reverse sweep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rogue went for the reverse sweep against Envy and fell just short. It never really felt under their control, even when they were sort of like storming back. It just sort of felt like an inevitability that Envy would win. And in the last game, they just sort of put their foot
Yeah.
on the gas and left us behind. So, but
Champions Field Turbo.
Champions Field Turbo, what are you going to do? No one's talking about Champions Field Turbo, but
Not yet. Just wait.
Champions Field Turbo, the legend is just beginning. But then sort of like going in round two, we don't have to sort of like recap as heavy, but just sort of like anything here jump out at you?
XSET beat FaZe, I think, is the biggest thing there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely massive win for them. It took all 5 games, but to take down the eventual champions of the tournament is that's really good for XSET, and it put them in a great spot for the rest of the day because they were 2-0. Another one, True Neutral beat G2.
Yeah.
Definitely notable.
That's awesome. We can get more into True Neutral. Started off really well. I think they took down Ghost in the first series. Took down G2, so they were storming into the third round, 2-0, looking really good. Props to Colin was saying I think that you picked them out in your stinks last week.
I did say that they were my stinks, but then I also picked them to fill the gap. So
yeah. So we'll go we'll get to that later. But a hell of a rebound from True Neutral after sort of a disappointing last weekend.
Yeah.
Other stuff there, V1 3-0ing Shopify. That was sort of the continuing of the downfall of Shopify. 2 of the 3 games went to OT, and the other game was also just a 1-goal difference. So just a tough weekend for Shopify.
Yeah.
Good one for V1.
It was a tough weekend on the heart for V1, but in the end, it ended up okay.
Yeah. And then Rogue Sonics, that was when I knew the weekend was going to be a short one. Just I think Sonics are going to end up being the bane of Rogue's existence. I was telling Colin that the Sonics do a really good job of hitting the ball hard, um, with control, which pretty much looks like the key to beating Rogue. Just because if you can like get 1 to 2 goals just by sort of like beating out their rotation by booming it, um, that's a pretty good win condition. So
Yeah,
and Sonics do a
yeah.
good job of that.
All right, round three was where we had our first two teams to advance. So Energy took down True Neutral and Space Station beat XSET.
Hmm.
That allowed Energy and Space Station to be the top two seeds and move on into the next round, the playoff round.
Yeah. And True Neutral took Energy all the way to the death. I wonder how differently like the rest of True Neutral's weekend would have played out if they had sort of just like secured that. They would have been going in to the next day feeling absolutely on top of the world. But that was just a tough round, and I think mentally they had a lot to recover from after that. The last 2 games were in overtime, so they were 1 goal away in back-to-back games from securing it. Well, no, sorry. In Game 4 they tied the series, but they were 1 goal away in Game 5 on Champs Field against NRG. So good showing from them. And maybe on another day they roll in 3-0 and they go into the elimination round feeling like the Kings, and that's a scary sight to see from them.
Absolutely. And then on the other end of things, Team DVS and Integrity went 0-3 and did not qualify. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
We were excited about Integrity, but these are two teams that haven't don't have the experience of everyone else, all the other teams in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that they weren't able to cope with the pressure of RLCS.
Yeah.
But we hope to see them back.
Yeah. And DVS, actually, I didn't enjoy that series against Rogue. It was way scarier than it should have been. Rogue were sort of mentally boomed after losing in Game 5 to both Envy and Sonics, and so they didn't really look like themselves, but DVS made them earn it. They didn't just roll over after they had gone down. I think 0-3 in their first series, so props to them for the resilience. And then Integrity, I sort of mentioned last week that I thought that whichever team sort of came out of that Integrity Torrent first round grudge match was really going to struggle. Just because I think that's very just mentally difficult. So yeah, hopefully they can just bounce back. Still, something to be really proud of.
Yep. And then version 1 in the middle section there, version 1 got reverse swept again by Team Envy.
Yeah.
So they've now at this point been reverse swept twice by two top tier teams. So it was not going to be great.
Yeah, and everything else was pretty much just sort of chalk. G2 beating Sonics, FaZe beating Charlotte. Nothing really too special to talk about there. And so that takes us into round 4. And what's sort of like jumping off right off the bat here is both XSET and Torrent were in a position where they were basically facing against, no one inside the top 5 with an opportunity to just straight up advance. And XSET took that chance and absolutely ran with it and 3-0'd Torrent. So once again, just props to XSET. I think I didn't really get to watch that game, but that Percy is just captain clutch pretty much all weekend. And so hopefully they can sort of step up to a new level, just because I think they had a good fall last year and then sort of fell off like winter and spring. Obviously always have had talent on their roster, so it's just good to see them like actually achieving their potential.
I think they did, if I remember correctly, they had a good grid in the spring.
Okay, yeah, that sounds familiar.
But it's not really worth anything. But
maybe the key is just having their org broadcast.
Yeah.
So
maybe.
they could be a dangerous team in the Swiss.
Dangerous day one team.
Yeah, we'll see how that narrative plays out. But unfortunately, True Neutral, after getting so close against NRG, lost against Team Envy. I don't think that's quite as good of a matchup for them as NRG is, just because Envy just have like the ability to just like basically bottle up any team that they want just about. And so if they sort of like get a good read on you, then that's just sort of curtains.
Yeah. So at this point, Envy, XSET moved on. FaZe also moved on, defeating G2 in 5 games. And then Rogue, Shopify, and Charlotte were eliminated at this stage.
Yeah. Not too much to say in the V1 Rogue series. That was the one I was watching out of those. Rogue just seemed boomed after the first 2 series. Like DVS was just sort of them picking up the pieces. So still positives to take away, but V1 once again sort of like showing that their mental fortitude. That's a team that can go the distance and keep on fighting. So
Yeah.
huge props to them.
Yeah, and Shopify getting eliminated here 1-3, just disappointing for them all around.
Yeah. And then that takes us into the round 5, which is always one of my favorite, like, in any format, this is one of my favorite times when it's sort of like in that absolute crunch time, because it always seems that one team that you really wouldn't expect to be here always sort of ends up with everything on the line. And that team today was G2, but they stepped up in a big way to 3-0 Ghost. And I watched that series, and it just wasn't particularly close the entire time. They just, you know, outpaced them. G2 just has so much class. Drees is just so good. I'm really happy they stuck with him. But for them in the future, they would probably like to not leave it that close, but they did make it into the next round. But them doing it this late sort of messed up their seeding, which really sort of gave us a pretty interesting bracket for the elimination round.
Oh yeah. And then yeah, so G2 advanced beating Ghost. True Neutral finally punched your ticket. They started off 2-0, dropped down to 2-2, but they beat the Sonics to move on. And then V1 finally moving on as well, taking down Torrent 3-0 in a sweep. So that secured them the 5 seed, I believe, for the next round.
Okay, just because they had such a good game
They
difference.
had, yeah, because they had 2 sweeps in their wins, 1-3-1, and then both their losses were game 5.
Okay. Yeah, and so that I mean that was very important for them getting that 6 seed because 1 and 2 were Space Station and NRG, and so they were able to dodge both those teams. What that did mean is that G2 sliding into that 7 seed got matched up with NRG, and so I guess that sort of takes us the general NRG, but I guess that takes us into the elimination round.
Yeah, so our first round matchups, we had Space Station Gaming versus True Neutral, FaZe Clan versus Team Envy, another heavy hitters matchup, G2 Energy, and then XSET versus Version 1.
Yeah, so no disrespect at all, but one of those matchups is not quite like the others.
I have no idea what you're talking about. All I see is top 4, baby. Top 4. Version 1 finally gets a good draw on the day. They've been put through the gauntlet in the Swiss, but when Psionic could no longer schedule them randomly, it was all mathematical seeding. They pulled XSET, take them down in 7 games.
Yeah, and so just like going into that series, I didn't get to watch too much of it too closely, but the part that I did see all over Reddit and Twitter was Com coming up so clutch. It ended up in a Game 7 overtime after XSET had beaten them 6-0 in Game 6, and so it was a stalemate, and Com was the one to break that with a huge air dribble bump play showing his ones experience.
Yeah, absolutely insane. Super sweaty. Um, but just a great play. 0-0, a minute into overtime in game 7. And he comes up with the first and only goal of the game.
Yeah, and so that was the end of the weekend for XSET, but I think that they have a lot of positives they can take away from that, and it'll be interesting to see if this is sort of like if they can start slotting in consistently into that top 8. I think just like the scene is so stacked right now that if you can be consistent, like doing this one time is fantastic, but can you replicate it twice and maybe even 3 times? That's your only chance if you want to even get close to that major slot. So that was the end of it for them. It's sort of like, well, we're going from the bottom of the bracket up here. Next one was a huge heavyweight matchup: G2 versus NRG in the first round of the elimination bracket, and boy, did it live up to the hype.
Oh my God. 6 games. All 6 games went to overtime.
Yeah, and they traded back and forth for the first 4 until NRG won games 5 and 6 consecutively. But up until then, it was just clutch moments back and forth. All obviously 1 goal games, relatively low scoring. But those 2 teams, they just
They match up so well, and they have some exciting series.
yeah, they're both just high speed. All 3 players super consistent. So I think anytime you see those 2 teams match up, you're gonna get something exciting. It'll be really interesting to see if we ever get that in the grand finals, just because sorry, excuse me
So many games.
So many games, and when they played each other in RLCS championships last spring, it was an absolute banger round. So just looking forward to seeing those two run into each other more often.
Absolutely.
Other game I got to watch this one pretty closely was FaZe Envy. And this was sort of the game where I was finally had to acknowledge that FaZe were the real deal, just because it was seemed like Envy was getting a good read on them, and FaZe just didn't care. You know, they're just faster, they have better reads than you, and at the end of the day, that's kind of what Rocket League is. You can have cleaner rotations and a good grasp on what the other team's doing, but if you can't catch them, that doesn't really get you anywhere.
Yeah, and this one, it went all 7 games. There were two 6+ minute overtimes. So definitely a hard fought series.
Yeah, and First Killer had an insane corner read to just like sort of like a little bit of like a redirect off the underside of the tires to win game 5, which obviously, had huge impact on the series because that put them up 3-2, and so they just had to grab one of the last 2 games. So really exciting, really great showing from both teams.
Champions Field Turbo, we mentioned him earlier, but he didn't come to play on Saturday.
Yeah, well, he's just starting to run Champions Field First Killer. That's a whole different beast, man. And then the last series was Space Station True Neutral. Space Station swept 4-0, but that is not indicative of how things were at all. Every game was one goal game, and 3 of the 4 games went to overtime, but Space Station were just more clutch.
Yeah, I mean, the scores of the game 2-1, 2-1, 1-0, 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
That's low scoring. That's just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, and it just really went to show that just how well Space Station can control the pacing of a game, just because True Neutral are so fast and they're cutting so often, and Space Station just don't care. Also, like as far as like stylistically, they were getting a whole lot of value out of their demos, just because if you sort of like get rid of one person and then someone makes a risky challenge, there's not someone there to back them up in net, and so Space Station sort of exposed that. I think it bodes really well for them, like as far as like being able to make it through the bubble teams and just sort of like the less organized but more mechanical teams. Space Station, if they can sort of like iron out this style against the better teams, they're going to be, not surprising, but they'll be around for the whole year.
Absolutely. And that was the end of all the games on Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Which takes us into Championship Sunday.
And here we go, kicking it off the bat with the general NRG versus V1 thoughts.
NRG is good.
True.
They're better than version 1.
Also true.
I think version 1 was just happy to be there.
As they should.
Yeah. I don't think they ever really thought they were going to win this one. They, obviously they gave it their best, but they're just happy to be top 4.
Yeah.
That puts them in a great spot to start off, and just the way, like, with how long it took them to even get into the regional, they were the 16 seed coming in to get top 4, just absolutely huge.
Yeah, there was a moment like at the start of the game where they were sort of playing like blow for blow, and V1 actually scored and went up, and then it was just like a switch flipped, and Energy's like, okay, we actually like really want to win this now, and they're just, it's nothing against version 1, but Energy just like talent wise they're a tier above like so many other teams in the region, and so when they do just sort of want to play their style, they can play it better than the other team can keep up with, and that's just sort of what happened here.
Yeah, for sure.
And the other semifinal was Space Station FaZe.
Yeah, this was a really good series. Back and forth pretty much the whole way. It was just really exciting. I was getting a good laugh because Arsenal. I haven't watched RLCS in a while, in the long off season, and just seeing Arsenal just drive around bumping people, it's just so funny. I mean, someone like will start to go in for a challenge and they're just erased. Or like I think Space Station scored 1 goal, and we're like, what was the defense doing? And we looked, and Arsenal was just like in the goal, just driving around, like bumping everyone.
Yeah, Arsenal make cars go boom.
Yeah, he had 1 goal in the series. I don't know if there's a clip of it somewhere, but he goes off the ceiling, then lands on the ground, shoots it, and then like no other player would do this, but then he just goes for the demo.
Yeah.
Like, you're coming from the ceiling, just do a ceiling shot or something. And nope, I'm gonna land and go for a bump play.
Yeah, he saved his flip so that he could wave dash on the off the ground to get in front of the ball to bump the defender. It's just like peak Arsenal. But FaZe fought back though. This was a crazy, crazy chaotic series. I don't know like actual demo statistics, but it felt like the most demos I had seen in a long time. They were fighting back. I mean, first killers. I don't know the Johnny Boy statistics on speed, but I feel like he's the fastest player I've just about ever seen. And so he's zooming around, blowing people up. Illusion is in there getting dirty. AJ is just sort of kind of playing his own game sometimes. But it was, if you have the chance to sort of like rewatch any series from the day, I think this is probably the one of choice.
Absolutely.
And that brings us into a very, very interesting grand finals of FaZe Clan and RG. And that sort of like a little bit of a dirty play style FaZe Clan was rocking in the semifinals certainly carried over.
Oh yeah, it carried over on the field and off the field as we had a little bit of controversy. So sometime during the first set, so this was best of set.
Mm-hmm.
Sometime during the first set, Justin had an internet problem. A goal scored. It was ruled that the goal would count for FaZe, and then we don't know exactly what happened, but there was some talk in the quick chat, and then there was some talk on Twitter.
A lot of
A
talk on
lot of
Twitter.
talk on Twitter. Bit of controversy. People's families were brought in. It was certainly interesting.
Yeah, I think part of that was the product of people just being excited to tweet about Rocket League again, and they were sort of given a bone here, and every single dog possible tried to grab onto that. The impression farms were off the charts. Not surprisingly, Reddles was having a field day with it. Arsenal was having a field day with it. There was a whole lot of instigating. I think a lot of people wanted more banter. It was sort of isolated to that like in-game chat. But then Garrett and First were sort of exchanging things on Twitter. I don't really want to go into the details of it, but it was exciting. It gave
Yeah,
something for the fans to sort of latch on to.
it was
And
definitely interesting. There's a whole thread on the Reddit breaking down kind of all the important things of it. If you want to go check that out.
yeah,
Um,
and I mean like the cool thing about this is it builds a storyline for the next time these teams play. There will be whether or not the players really feel it in the server, the community is going to sort of force
yeah,
a rivalry out of that these teams really hate each other and don't get along. And so that'll at least be fun. That'll drive viewership. That'll drive hype, and it's cool to have players show personality, even if sometimes it's not the most untoxic.
yeah, absolutely. And another thing, these players are, they're behind the screens now, but coming up, they're gonna see each other face to face for the first time in a long time. So,
Yeah, First Killer's dad better start giving First some kickboxing lessons or something.
yeah,
Teach him that sleep schedule routine.
we're not going into that. Family friendly.
Yes, sir. So that pretty much wraps up the entirety of. Well, I mean, we didn't really go into any results at all, but it
Phase
was
one.
yeah, phase one. It was a very momentum based series of sets. Sets are a lot, man.
It's so long.
Yeah, it's just kind of like I'm obviously happy for more Rocket League, but part of me wishes it was either just one best of seven or like best of fives for the so best of three sets in the series are best of fives. Like I don't know, just it just seems like a little bit much.
Yeah, I think the players were tired by the end of it because they've already played one best of seven. They've had a whole weekend of Rocket League, and then they're coming in and they're forced to play at a minimum 8 games
Yeah.
back to back, and then at most 21 games.
Hmm.
This one was what, 15?
Yeah.
That's a lot of Rocket League. So, and then the series weren't even that close. It was 4-1, 4-1, and 4-2.
Yeah. And it also like really sort of takes away the gravity of the first series. It feels almost pointless. Like it's important obviously because it has a lot of impact on the later like series, but it's just like there's no real gravity to these like big moments. Like even when teams like win in overtime, it's just like okay, well we're gonna do that like 10 more times.
Yeah.
So I don't know. obviously, like I said, more Rocket League is better, and maybe this isn't the sentiment of everyone else in the community. That's just sort of, I think, how we felt. It's just a lot. It really is for fans, for casters, for players. But we'll probably get more acclimated to the in the future, and we'll continue to see more exciting matchups.
Absolutely. It's just big win for FaZe. Really the first event they played in as their full team.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
insane showing to come out and just win it right away.
This team is talented.
Yeah. Yes. They're very good.
That is my steaming hot take for the weekend: is that FaZe are talented.
All right then. So we have, let's see, we got some stonks and stinks to go
Yes,
through for. Should we do that at the end actually, and then combine it NAEU all together?
I don't really feel comfortable with that because we did not watch a
That's
single
true.
game of EU.
That's true. All right. NA stonks and stinks. What do you got?
So thinking back and looking, oh man, I don't want to steal yours. Uh, I think I am going to give my stonks to True Neutral. Just because I think that I agreed with Colin that they deserved sort of like, I expected more of them before, but this weekend they did sort of prove that they were at that tier that we believed in. I think that in our power rankings we put them at seventh, and they, were top eight, and they had a really, really, really tough draw. They beat Ghost, beat G2, lost to Energy, lost to Envy, and beat Sonics, and so they pretty much beat every team that they were supposed to beat, and G2. So that's very impressive. Only losses coming to Energy, Envy, and Space Station. So they still have, ways to go, but I think I'm buying in those stonks just because this is still like their first time really swimming in the deep with the big teams with big pressure. So I think that True Neutral's at a little bit of a low, so I'd say buy now because the stonks are rising, baby.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I gotta go. Stonks version one. Come on, come on. I had to go for the homer pick,
Yes, sir.
but top four, just absolutely massive.
What do you think
Um,
was sort of like clicking for them?
they cleaned it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Calm is, I think, settling in. I think we're gonna have a calm breakout season. He's just clipping on everyone out here.
Yeah,
Torment was on. He scored 5 goals in one game. So when he's shooting, the entire team can score. They play such good defense, and their rotations are clean, even with Gimmick doing whatever the heck he does.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it's really important for V1, like you said, that Calm sort of like takes the next step in his career, and B, that Torment becomes more of a goal scoring threat, just because more and more teams are sort of like having that third man like play like a very important like finishing role. Like you look at like Taroko on Rogue, Turbo like on Envy, and obviously those aren't clean, but just like having a player that like while the rest of your team is doing their crazy stuff, who can really just sort of ice it, I think is really important. So yeah, I'm all in for the version one stonks too. What an awesome weekend for them.
absolutely.
All right, stinks.
I gotta go Shopify. It's the
Yeah.
easiest one.
Mm,
But 1-3 on the day. Losses to Xset version 1 and Ghost. Those are teams they should probably be beating based on the results from last year.
mm-hmm.
The only team they beat in the entire regional was Integrity Esports.
Yeah.
I didn't catch a whole lot of what they were doing,
Mm-hmm.
but something has to change. They got to figure it out. And they need to do something. I don't know. I don't know what was going on this weekend. Maybe they didn't get enough sleep.
They also they have a history of sort of being up and down. They have high peaks and low lows,
Yeah,
but I think the expectation is that they're sort of like they have enough experience now where they can put the low lows behind them. So yeah, I'm with you. I have faith that they'll bounce back, but I don't know what was in the water this weekend. Um, for my stinks, I'm looking around, and I don't think I can avoid it. I'm gonna have to give it to Rogue, just because I think I talked about last time. They obviously had a really horrible, horrible invitational qualifier, and then sort of turned around in the closed qualifier. So I was feeling pretty good about them this weekend. But they just need to work on their clutch gene, man. They had a chance to sort of take things against Envy. They went into Game 5 with some momentum, lost that. They have been reverse swept and beaten in a best of 5 by Sonics twice recently. And that's the type of games that if they are going to prove that they're going to be a top 10 team, they need to be winning those. And then also, they need to put up a much better fight against V1. They did sort of what they could, and I think sort of like they were mentally drained. But I don't know. I believe in this team, so I expect more. And I think that they've showed potential to do more. So hopefully next time they can sort of like find more consistency. Just because that's like the biggest differentiator at this level is just being able to play consistently. Any one of these teams can pop off in one series and maybe even like one day and one weekend, but to be able to do it consistently across like different competitions is what it's all about.
Yeah, and so we have a couple of awards to give out. These are fake awards.
What do you mean?
We'll probably have a different award every week, and hopefully try to come up with something creative. What do you got for me today?
Players and teams are going to be clamoring for these awards, Colin.
Well, mine's a negative award, so
mine's a positive. So I'll go first.
Right.
I'm going to give the Mickey Mouse Award to First Killer and, just sort of to like the FaZe team in general for making NA look like a bit of a Mickey Mouse region. Obviously, there were, trials and tribulations here and there, but throughout the entirety of it, they looked pretty confident and pretty dominant. And, First Killer, he did it all for the clubhouse.
Yeah,
whatever that is. I'm assuming it's a Discord.
All the fans in the clubhouse.
But he gave them a shout out. So Mickey Mouse Award goes to First Killer. He's also probably old enough to still be watching Mickey Mouse. So shouts out to him.
Yeah, he might have Disney Channel on in the background while he's playing.
Hey man, whatever gets him to play at that level. If Mickey Mouse is it, then
oh yeah, you do what you need to win.
I'll throw it on while I'm in free play.
All right, my award is the "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed" award.
Okay.
For your dad, it's what your dad says when you screw up real big.
Yeah.
And Shopify, we talked about him, but I'm just disappointed. I'm not mad, but I'm disappointed.
Yeah, do better, Shopify. That's all I'm going to do. Do better. You know you can.
Go to your room and think about what you've done.
Don't be so impressionable. Be willing to say no to your friends when they're being a bad influence on you. But yeah, I think that wraps it up. Ties a bow on the first NA regional. Hyped to have major competition back and the first points being doled out for the fall major.
And $100,000. $100,000.
That's nothing, man. Nothing. But I think that we can sort of hop all the way across the pond and open up Wikipedia and start looking at what on earth happened in Europe.
Yeah, so in Europe they have the same things that happened in NA last week. So they had the invitational qualifier and the closed qualifier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe we watched a combined 2 minutes of the qualifier, which was a single game 5.
Yep. So I feel pretty confident to speak on all the players, their abilities, and their worth as humans after that.
Yeah.
But looking at the invitational qualifier, I am seeing chalk smeared all over the board.
I'm seeing one thing right here. It's big, it's cheesy, it's not chalk. It's queso.
Yeah, I gotta get that out of my mind that's not like that's a new team repping that brand that doesn't have the same expectations. But that's awesome.
That's a team that did not exist last year. I don't think any of the players they might have qualified for one combined regional in the entire RLCSX.
Yeah.
And they came out and they beat the old team Queso in the first round, which is something that I believe I called back in like week 2.
Yes, sir. So, you want to go top to bottom, just sort of reading the teams that qualified. So once again, we're rocking Swiss stage here. Hopefully by now you're familiar with it. But win 3 games, you move on. Lose 3 games, you're out. So these are the teams that won 3 games, and are going to be moving on to the main event.
Yeah, in order of seed. So the first seed, Shocker, Team BDS went 3-0.
Wow.
Second seed, also Shocker, Team Vitality also went 3-0.
Wow.
And then the 3, 4, and 5 seeds were super. The Monkeys and Team Queso all went 3-1, and then Endpoint, Dignitas, and Carmine got in at 3-2.
Yeah. And so then the bottom 8, once again going in order, were Guild, SK Gaming, and Williams Resolve, all going 2-3. So those are the heartbreak teams. Vodafone Giants, BS Plus, and Evil Geniuses going 1-3, and 0-0 Nation, great rebrand from Nordovan, and FC Barcelona going 0-3. So other than sort of like Team Queso, what jumps out to you here?
The Giants, really, I thought. I mean, that was Team Queso last year. I thought they'd be better, but they are, an inconsistent team.
Mm-hmm.
I think SK and Guild not getting in this stage was disappointing for them.
Yeah.
But every team that was eliminated in this portion did go into the closed qualifier.
Yeah. So their weekend wasn't quite over. The top teams, however, though, they got to sort of kick back, relax, and they don't have anything to do until next Friday.
Yeah.
But looking at the end, so like the top 4, I think Monkeys obviously going 3-1 is kind of shocking. But Queso, Endpoint, I think it's not like unheard of that these teams would do that well, especially Queso. Did really well in the third party tournament. I think Endpoint did pretty well too. So exciting to see them. Endpoint taking down Evil Geniuses, Giants, and SK. And so, those are the type of teams that you need to be beating consistently if you sort of want to be a tier above them. So really exciting to see that from them with a new roster. Dignitas and Carmine, I think we had them 3 and 4 in our power rankings. And so in an ideal world, you'd expect them to go 3-1 as opposed to 3-2. But they still got the job done when it mattered. Dignitas lost to Monkeys in Game 5 and Williams Resolve, and Carmine lost to SK and Guild. So teams that they need to beat in the future. You don't want to be wearing yourself out like that. But they got the job done, and it's gonna have some effect on seeding though. So hopefully they'll be able to recover.
So that takes us into the closed qualifier where the bottom 8 teams in the Invitational got slotted in, along with the top 8 teams from the open qualifier.
Yeah, and so that happened earlier today. It partially overlapped with RLCS NA, which is sad, but theoretically, if you woke up early in the morning, if you're on NA time, you get to enjoy some EU Rocket League before the NA. That would be a lot of Rocket League, but more power to you if that's how you feel.
Yeah,
But
I think the notable teams to make it into this from the open qualifier would be Solary, the Flying Dutchman, Team Singularity, and Team Liquid, and then Fadeaway as well.
Yeah, I think sort of like the most notable teams to not qualify would be Rick's GG, who were complaining about not getting an invite to the invitational qualifier. So kind of ironic for them. Cook Sears Minions couldn't make it happen, and Wolves Esports, I believe.
Yeah.
Do you know if they were playing in this?
Yeah, they should have been.
Okay. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see Europe stacked. The fact that we can name 3 good teams, and there probably are other ones that we're missing that didn't qualify. It's going to be very very cutthroat in the future. But as far as like going over the actual results, top to bottom for the teams that won 3 and made it through were Giants, the Flying Dutchman, which is the new roster of Phil, Violent Panda, and Oli, coached by Verge. So really impressive to see them going 3-0, but we'll sort of come back to that later. And third place going 3-1 was SK Gaming, Fadeaway, and Williams. And going 3-2 was Evil Geniuses, 0-0 Nation, and Guild Esports.
Yeah, Guild just barely squeaked through. They were down 2-0 to Barcelona with about 30 seconds left in Game 5 of the Do or Die game and came back and won it in overtime. So huge for them and sad for Barcelona, who is not going to be in this regional, along with Solary, Ferg and Co. Team Liquid. Team Liquid did not qualify.
Yeah.
Yeezys, Team Singularity, BS Plus, and Earn Roar.
Yeah. I think most notable things there is that Team Liquid got hit with the Spanish Revolution. They got beaten in Game 5 by both Giants, and Barcelona. So that's something they're going to have to work on, is handling that Spanish aggression, because you cannot make it through a qualifier without getting attacked. So
You also can't make through a qualifier losing to a team called Ferg and Co.
yeah,
with one player who doesn't even have a Liquipedia page.
yeah. So not the best look for Liquid, but they're still a new roster, and hopefully we'll be able to have better things to come in the future. Anything else for us jumping out at you here?
BF12 kind of disappointing that
Yeah.
they didn't make it in.
0-3 as well,
0-3.
losing to the Flying Dutchman and one of the pickup teams.
Yeah, and Fadeaway.
Yeah.
Fadeaway had a good. I guess they did well too. Tigre, Dead Monster, and Louis P.
Yeah.
Down 3-1. Only losses to FK.
And those are some grinders too. Those are a lot of people who were hanging around the bubble scene last year. So happy to see them make a main event.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I think that we have the matchups taking both the top 8 from the Invitational Qualifier and the top 8 from the Closed Qualifier are going to be in the main event next weekend. And we have those matchups already?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So let's take a look.
So it matches up like 1 seed plays 16 seed, 2 plays 15, all the way down the line. We have BDS Guild, Vitality, 00 Nation, Semper and Evil Geniuses, Monkeys against Williams, Queso against Fadeaway, Endpoint against SK Gaming, Dignitas versus the Flying Dutchman, the return of Panda.
Yes.
And then Carmine versus Giant.
Yeah, so lot of tough matchups here and lots of storylines. As Colin was hinting at, the return of both Violent Panda and Verge against the children of Dignitas, the boys they raised, they have to now go to war, and so that'll be really exciting. I'm sure there's hopefully a lot of love on both sides there. And then also, as far as homecomings go, Itachi, nope, that's not Giants' Queso. I am tripping. Never.
But it was his old org.
Yeah, it was his old org. That is going to be. I'm gonna have to watch a lot of EU Rocket League, which I haven't had the chance to do yet, before I'm able to sort of like sort out the Queso, Giants, Barcelona org mix up.
Yeah, I've had to click on these teams like 7 times to actually check who's on their roster, because so many orgs changed in this off season that it's so hard to keep up with.
But that aside, Carmine versus Giants in the first round matchup is going to be really hard, and so whatever team comes out of that 0-1 is going to have a long day ahead of them. Other than that, BDS Guild, last spring that was hyped up as sort of like the marquee matchup in EU before Vitality decided to turn it on for championships, and so kind of crazy to see that that's the 1/16 matchup now. So going to be interesting to see if this was just a fluke, them not performing this well in the qualifiers, or if this is going to be a continual problem for them.
I'll give you a shocking hot take.
Yeah.
I think BDS is going to win.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Against Guild.
All right. If we're doing hot takes here, then I think I'm gonna have to look down at the rest of the matchups and say, I don't really like to put myself on the line that much and take risks, but I think Vitality is going to beat 0-0 Nation.
Oh, that's a tough one. Taking your neck out on that one.
Yeah, but actual hot takes, I think Fadeaway Queso is going to be a very interesting matchup, and I can see Fadeaway taking that. So running off their hot form. I think that's a very, very smart team who's going to, never mind, Queso is a different team than I'm thinking in my head.
Yes, they are. But I think, might play a little similar.
Yeah, just very, very mechanically talented team. Fadeaway very smart, so the classic brains versus mechanics there.
Yes.
So I think now it is time for us to do a little bit of predictions,
yes.
And we'll play our pred game.
Easy claps, fill the gaps, getting slapped. And if we're keeping score, I went 3 for 3.
3
last
for
week.
3.
Correctly predicting my easy clap, fill the gap, and getting slapped every single time from the NA original. So we'll see if I can keep that going.
Yeah, I'm going to have to play some catch-up here.
Yeah,
maybe I'll be the EU master. But it was kind of crazy because True Neutral and Sonics were playing each other for the fill the gap slot in the do or die, and so Colin got bragging rights for me. But who do you have in Easy Claps?
I think we're on the same mind on this one.
Mm-hmm.
There's two teams that are just a step above in EU.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they don't play each other, I think they'll both go 3-0. But I'll just take the easier one. I'll get Team BDS.
Yeah, really tough shout by you there. I'm gonna try and be interesting here. Oh man,
Oh,
I'm looking down. I every single part of me wants to say Carmine. I want to believe that, like looking at the phase magic from this weekend, that a new roster could put together something of that level. But I don't think I can do that. I don't think they're consistent enough. They certainly haven't showed it yet. So maybe they'll figure things out this week, and I'll look like an idiot. But I guess easy claps. I'm gonna have to go Vitality.
yeah. That you mean yeah, easy. All right.
Easy
I think that's a fine choice.
thank you. So fill the gaps. This is the team that goes 3-2 on the day and wins that sudden death matchup.
Why don't you kick it off?
I will kick it off. I think I'm gonna go with the Flying Dutchman. I think that they have the experience and clutchness. I really liked what I saw from Oli on Wolves last season, and I think So is just a really solid player. So with Verge and Violent Panda sort of captaining them, I think Europe's so stacked that I can't really see them, carrying on the same momentum they had from that 3-0 in the close qualifier. But I can definitely see them sort of squeaking in the end of, it'll be on Friday.
Yeah,
Yeah, and at the end of Friday, I can see them being the last one standing.
definitely a strong choice. This is a hard pick.
Yeah.
There's some good teams in here.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to give my fill the gap to oh boy.
This is so tough, man.
This is very I'm gonna go SK Gaming.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a strong roster. They came out a little slow in the qualifiers from what it seemed, but I think they're good enough to get 3-2. I was staring at like 8 different teams to pick from. I have no idea.
Yeah, I was while you were thinking about that, I was trying to think of my getting slapped, and this is like I don't think there's quite like no offense to DBS and Integrity, but there's no like first timers here. All these teams have RLCS experience.
Except Queso.
Yeah, I know that's what I was, but I want to believe in Queso.
I want to believe in Queso too. I almost picked them for my fill the gap, but I don't know
Yeah.
if I believe in them
So
quite that much.
now progressing on to getting slapped, which is the team that goes 0-3 on the day, has a rough one, and has to rebuild for next major, well, next regional. What are you thinking?
Oh god, this is bad.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to give it to Team Fade Away.
Okay. Just don't think they're gonna be able to put it together
I
on the
just
day.
I just think they might be a little outclassed, but Tigre's a magician.
Yeah.
He always seems to hang around and win. So
Yeah. He's a good enabler.
we'll see. It's two like ones guys with Tigre,
Mm-hmm.
so we'll see how that works on the big stage. It definitely could work very well, and they could go 32. There's no obvious choice here.
Yeah. There is no obvious choice. Like I'm looking around, and even like the orgs and faces that like seem new are not.
No, like you're
um,
like, oh, who is this 0-0 Nation people? And then you see Hibbs and Breezy with Flame,
yeah,
and
it's
you're
like,
just
oh
like,
man, that's a lot of experience. Um, oh, so I mean, Queso is sort of like the team that has the highest chance of sort of flopping in the sense of lack of experience, but I think that they're coming in with a lot of confidence. I don't see that happening. I think that there's a case to be made for evil geniuses, just sort of with the pressure of the big org and not performing. Um, I think I'm gonna have to go 0-0 Nation. I'm looking around at sort of like I think it sort of like rests on Hibbs. I see him as sort of like the X factor for that team when he's scoring. Obviously, Breezy's an incredible creator, but when Hibbs is scoring, that's just a completely different team. And so I think that there's sort of like the most like fluctuation there. And so I like it's hard for me to envision a world where a lot of these teams go 0-3, but I can see the world where he has an off day where they do. So I'm gonna go 0-0 Nation. They're gonna go 0-3.
Yeah, this is brutal. All these teams, I feel like it's like we were kind of putting our tiers earlier,
Mm-hmm.
not off the air, but for EU, I have like a top two, and then just an absolute mess
Yeah,
underneath it.
yeah.
Like I don't think there's,
I think it's much easier to define in NA.
yeah,
But EU, it truly is like BDS vitality, and then the bubble is strong.
yes,
There are teams that I think both of us believe in have sort of like the caliber to break through that, but it's just not a given. It's not a given that Carmine achieves like the potential of that roster, and it's not a given that Dignitas is able to realize that talent. So yeah, it is a mess, man. But that'll be really exciting. I think both of us are ready to sort of like dive back into EU. There's sort of like less content made around the EU scene than NA, so it's a little harder to keep up with during the off season. And so I think both of us are sort of like a little bit behind. But it's going to be a really exciting year. I think certainly we've talked about this before, but much more competitive than RLCSX was. I think that I don't think NA is going to write in any NA is going to result in any sort of like BDS dominance, and I certainly don't think that Europe's going to be that way again. I think there's a lot of teams that can trade blows with BDS. So anything else you want to add going into the EU Regional One?
I'm excited. I haven't seen these teams play in a while. Had my eye on the NA scene for the last, I don't know, few weeks.
Yeah,
The NA regional coming up first, and I'm excited to see what these teams are doing and what they're up to these days.
I think the thing that there's a lot of like things on my mind going into this, but I'm very interested to see where BDS's future lies because I don't think what they did last year will be replicable with this talented of a field. But there were times last year where you couldn't imagine them losing. And when they did, it was because they were playing top blokes and Archie was the best player in the world for 5 minutes. And if they, like, I feel like the end of last year is going to be a very pivotal moment for them, whether or not they become the GOATs or whether or not they just become another incredible team. I don't think there's any situation where they fall off, but they were on pace to become the best team of all time. And I think that sort of like how this starts is going to show us where the future is what the future is going to hold for them.
Yeah, they have one more shot here this year to prove that they are one of those great teams and not a 1 year wonder that fell just short.
Yeah, and like watching NRG the past couple weeks, I couldn't imagine them losing to a team. They just looked so good, and then FaZe completely debunked that immediately. So, it just goes to show, like, interestingly enough, maybe sets lead to more variety, just because no one could seem to beat BDS until Vitality played them in sets, but I think there are other things going on there. No one seemed like they were going to be able to beat NRG today, and then FaZe sort of, like, took them down, so who knows? It's going to be interesting to see how that plays into the format. It's also single elim past the Swiss stage. I think that adds a lot of sort of parity as well.
Absolutely. I'm just excited to see if we get any new cars this weekend. We had a Merc in NA in the final. So I'm wondering if EU has anything fun for us planned. Maybe a Scarab.
Yeah, Astral Clown Car.
Yeah, maybe. But with Flakes not making it, the chances are lower.
Yeah, no Batmobile with Cooks here gone. Back in the
Yeah.
store right now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so
Go get your Batmobile.
there's going to be a lot more Batmobiles plaguing my ones games. Not looking forward to that. I don't know how to 50 that car, so.
Here's how you deal with Batmobiles in ones.
Yeah.
Don't play ones.
Yeah, well, with my internet, I'm doing a bang up job with that. So. All right, we about ready to close up shop?
I think so. thank you guys for listening. As always, we love you.
Yes.
Um, Follow us on our socials, enter the contest, join the fantasy league if you want to lose to me and my team where I drafted like one good player because Justin is OP.
Yep.
But yeah,
Awesome.
pretty much all I got.
Yeah, me too. Peace, y'all.